I've been in emergency medicine now out of residency for 13 years.
How do you deal with the stress of having to make life or death decisions on a daily?
It's probably unhealthy compartmentalization. You don't get to choose anything in the ER. It just comes in, like whether you want it to or not, it's happening. I get zero time to think about what's going on. You just have to react and be there. And it's not anything they really teach you in residency. It's just kind of, I think you just inherit it over time. I can remember I had a young, 14-year-old that overdosed, ended up.
Oh, no.
I'm explaining to their family, I'm sorry, your daughter's dead. Ask them if there's anything I can do to aid them. And then I have to continue on because there's still people waiting, and then move into the next room where they then start screaming at you because they've been waiting an hour and a half for whatever.
That's what I'm talking about.
Is going on. And in some sense, you kind of have to be the bigger person and just understand that they didn't just go through what you went through. And so you have to let it all go and say, I'm sorry, and just kind of move on.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Mike and the Doc. I'm Mike.
And I'm the Doc. And today we have a very special guest, Dr. Dylan Foord. Dr. Dylan Foord is an ER physician in the community, and he's been at this for 13 years.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I've been in emergency medicine now out of residency for 13 years, as you said, and it's been quite the journey. I did my residency in Detroit and kind of made my way over to California, up into Washington, and now down into Las Vegas for the last 4 years. It's been pretty exciting, and yeah.
Detroit, you kind of remind me of Eminem.
I could see it.
Yeah, actually, my residency was on 9 Mile and Shane.
Really?
Which was, just above the area where all of that was happening. So
tell me about Detroit. How was that?
Detroit was quite an eye-opener for me. I grew up in a very quiet town in Idaho with no diversity, and moved to probably one of the more diverse places more diverse place in the United States. And so I went from the minority to the minority.
Right.
And they got a kick out of that. They always made it very aware. The nurses at least would kind of make fun of me about it. But it was a great experience, great education.
So Idaho to Detroit, and then from Detroit to Vegas. Take us on that journey.
So my wife is also a physician, and I stayed and worked in Detroit for a year after I graduated and got a little experience under my belt. And then she got her fellowship out at UCI in Irvine, California. So we moved to Orange County. We were there for 3 years while she finished up her fellowship, and then her first job was up in Washington.
State.
Yes, correct. Yeah, in Seattle. So we were living in Seattle. Things were well. She was working nights and kind of getting frustrated with some of the politics that occur in medicine. And one day, as a joke, her friend who lived down here had given her name to the medical director of the place where she works now. And it's like, you should hire my friend, but didn't tell my wife that she had done that. And so the guy reached out and said, hey, send me your CV. We're hiring down here. And so I got home from work, and she said, hey, this guy reached out to me in Vegas. Should we apply? I was like, nobody wants to live in Las Vegas. What are you talking? We have 2 girls,
Yeah.
Right.
They'll be strippers and hookers, right? Crazy. And but I was like, you know what? Just put in your resume, see what he offers. At least we can use it to counter anything up here, and we'll see what it's about.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, whatever you want, we'll give you. Just come down and interview. So we came down. And we looked at some houses and kind of did the tour, and we're like, it's not that bad, actually.
So we know how you got here geographically. So let's get in your head now. What made you choose the wonderful specialty of emergency medicine?
Yeah, it's kind of a long journey. I decided pretty early on, I think as a kid, I I wanted to be a doctor. And my mom was a ER nurse, and then she went back to school and became a PA. Like when I was in 5th grade, I think she started that.
Okay.
And then my dad was a respiratory therapist.
Oh.
And so to kind of make that work, my mom would work the day shift and my dad would work like in the afternoon or vice versa. And so if I wasn't at home, I was at the hospital kind of hanging out. And when my mom just needed a little bit of time to wrap up work, she would always stick me in the radiologist's office in the corner and say, "Shut up, don't say anything," and just sit there. And so I'd spend a lot of time with the radiologist, just watching them read films and kind of look at stuff, and that kind of piqued my interest. And then because my parents were both, in medicine, and we ended up at a lot of holiday parties, and the physician lifestyle kind of was appealing to me as well. They always had like really neat hobbies or really great vacations or something. I don't know. They were always just really relaxed people, at least back then, and were really intriguing. So I was like, that could be somebody I could be. So that's kind of what drove me into medicine. And then my 4th year, I was applying for radiology spots, and there was something going on in the afternoon. I needed to get out of a rotation. And I went to the director, like the med ed director, and I was like, "Hey, I need the day off. I can't do this." And he's like, "Well, I can't give you the day off, but if you had a reason to take the day off, then you could take it off." And he's like, "Why don't you, they're holding emergency medicine residency interviews. I can get you a spot in there. Why don't you take that interview, and then whatever you do with the rest of your day, I don't care." And so I took one emergency medicine residency interview. And I think I was just a little bit too relaxed during the interview. I was like leaning back on my chair and just like answering the questions pretty flippant. And they called me and they're like, "Man, you're our number one choice." And I said,
Wow.
"Well, that's great, but I'm going to do radiology." That's what I'm going into. I want to be an interventional radiologist. And they said, "Well, we're going to rank you number one, and we'll see what happens on match day." And obviously, I got like a runner-up on a radiology spot, but nobody dropped out of the program, and so I entered into an emergency medicine program. And I mean, it hasn't been bad. It's been great, actually. So I don't know. They always said the radiologists during the interviews were like, "You're just not like us. You're too talkative and outgoing." And
Interesting.
so my personality probably fits emergency medicine a little bit better.
And Dylan, was this during residency, or were you applying to get into residency?
This was while I was applying to get into residency. I needed that one day off, so I took that one interview, and that's kind of how I got.
And do you have
spot.
to change your course of study from a radiologist to an emergency physician, or is it all kind of the same?
Well, no, it's all kind of the same, but I really was leaning heavily on going into radiology, so heavily that I organized my 3rd and 4th year rotations into being like 9 months of radiology, which ended up helping me read my own films. But in the long run, I kind of missed out on getting some education in like internal medicine and other specialties that I ended up having to make up later on.
Okay, so ER, very, very exciting. And there are a lot of like, you can't like in internal medicine, you can decide whether you want an echo or a stress test or whatever.
Right.
It's not like that in critical care medicine, ER. So with all these decisions you have to make, do you ever get decision fatigue, or how do you deal with the stress of having to make life or death decisions on a daily? Is it drugs? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. If they're out there, give them to me. The thing is it's kind of, you don't get to choose anything in the ER. It just comes in, like whether you want it to or not, it's happening, and it's at your feet, it's the other day I was like in the middle of trying to pay a bill that I've been trying to pay for like a week, and I get pulled from a nurse that a woman's delivering in the back, coming out of an ambulance, delivering in the ER, and I get zero time to think about what's going on. It's just you just have to react and be there, and you can get pretty overwhelmed if you think about. If you start going down the list of things that you're going to be responsible that could walk through the door, it can be quite overwhelming, and you could really just go into a tailspin thinking about it. Like, what am I going to do if that comes in, you know? But really, when you break it down, it just comes down to like the very basics. Like, are they breathing? Do they have a pulse? Like, go back to like these basic things that are kind of taught to you in residency, and you start there and then just kind of work it out from there. And you don't always know the right answer. And fortunately, you know the right answer for the life-threatening things, because it always comes down to airway, breathing, and circulation, and those things you can fix. But to know everything about everything is definitely not, I don't think it's our job. But we have to know a little bit about everything, and know who to reach out to if we don't know, you know?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And some say, and there's very early on in your career, you lose sleep over, should I have done that test? And then you kind of swing to the other side of the fence and you order all the tests, and then you're like, am I ordering too many tests? And like, you know, how much is too much? And it's a lot that goes into running an emergency room. If you order everything on everybody, then it backs up the emergency room, and the nurses are overwhelmed with work. And if you order not enough on everybody, you're going to miss things, and people are going to
die,
suffer consequences.
So.
So it's just kind of a fine line of.
Do you do like any like breathing exercises, Tai Chi, anything like that?
Drink a lot of coffee in the morning. And
I drink coffee too.
I try to make sure I get my sleep at night.
We had an episode where, you know, sleep is like non-negotiable, right? Just point blank, it's non-negotiable. And like, have you heard of like active sleep? Like, you're not supposed to be in bed and you just have this period where you just knock out. Like, you have to actively go to bed and say, I'm gonna be in bed and I'm gonna sleep. You know, like you have to make it like a job, not like when you're like tired. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you got to make it a job.
No, that's what emergency medicine's about. Because you might be working night shift.
Yeah.
So you go into work at 8 o'clock at night, and you get off at 6 in the morning, and you might be wide awake, but you got to be back at work at 8, and then you might have like one day off, and then you got to work at 6 a.m. till 3 p.m. And so even if you're not tired, you have to get some sleep, and
you gotta force yourself.
So
almost.
you just go lay down, and there's like different exercises that I've found works for me.
Cool. To sleep. What do you do? I think this is all super interesting.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Obviously, like the surroundings very important. Making sure you're in a cool room.
Cold. Yeah.
Yeah, and then making sure there's like not any interruptions. Your phone's on silent and everything, and then. For me, what works is I just close my eyes and I picture a place like where I've been or where I want to be. And then I picture that spot and just try to focus on being there. And then my mind kind of starts to wander about like what I'm doing there. And then I just fall asleep with that. Because for me, it's about letting go of everything going on in my life or what I went through at work or, anything that's keeping me up. So if I can take myself to this other place where nothing is going on, that's how I can just let everything else go and my mind finally relaxes.
Before we move on, Dylan, I want to ask you, kind of following up on that question, how do you keep your mind sharp in those moments where it is a life or death decision? And how do you stay calm and know that you're making the right decision and not let those emotions overtake and kind of, take over?
That's a difficult question. It's not anything I think it's more about conditioning. You've been in those situations so many times. And I remember I remember so vividly the day that, like, in residency, the attending was like, we were in the middle of a code, and all the other codes he's been there by my side, and like basically the training wheels were on, and then he just rips them off like in the middle of the code. And then the nurses are looking to you for the answers. And so like that stress is not anything you ever want to feel. It can be overwhelming and you can shut down. But I think if you ever get overwhelmed and you don't know the answer, you can always go back to the basic. Like I said, just go back to the basics of like, okay, where are we at? Like you're ingrained on those basic things like airway, breathing, circulation, and just go through those and start from the top. If you're lost in whatever workup you're in, just start from the top, and then you always end up kind of figuring it out.
Yeah, like,
does that make sense? Did I answer the question? Like
it does. I think what you're saying is like even if you don't figure it out, you're gonna make sure. So Dr. Foord is talking about the ABCs of like resuscitation, airway, breathing, circulation. So like if you can't figure out a case, you're like, listen, they're breathing, right? Their airway's secure and they have a pressure. I have some time to think about what this is. I don't got to freak. I mean, I'm not an ER doctor. If a
patient were to come in here and just be dumped on our table, like I know for me, the first thing I always ask the staff, the team that we work with, I need a blood glucose, I need access, and I need like an EKG.
Yeah.
And then usually by then somebody's told me whether we have a pulse or, whether they're breathing, and we can, like, they're not breathing. Okay, we'll get some bagging going on until we can establish an airway. We'll start doing some chest compressions. And like, you just kind of work through this algorithm that you've been just taught like over and over. And that algorithm really doesn't change for any scenario, for any patient that comes in. You always, like, even the basic cough things, probably in the back of your mind subconsciously, you run through those before anything. And then the rest of it's just kind of medicine, I guess. And
it's like you can kind of...
You have some time to think, like you said.
Yeah, you have time now that all the emergencies... Like, I think what you're saying is in emergency medicine, and I'm not an emergency physician, but in emergency medicine, you take care of all the things that are emergencies, and then I think something pretty close to that is like the common stuff.
Correct.
Somebody comes in with chest pain, you rule out the thing that can kill them, and then you rule out the thing that it's most commonly, like heart attack, PE, whatever, or dissection. You guys really focusing on dissection. See, I'm an internal medicine guy, so for me, it's either a PE or a heart attack, because if you're talking to me, then dissection's been ruled out, right? So dissection doesn't even go on my radar, but it's on his radar. You know what I'm saying?
So dissection's when your aorta is tearing apart from either a ruptured plaque or elevated blood pressure or drugs or whatever. And obviously, if you can imagine your aorta tearing apart, that's going to cause some problems. You're either going to be spilling blood or you're about to be spilling blood into a place where it shouldn't be. But it's kind of the elusive thing, I guess. I think that every ER doctor, we don't see enough of them, and we know they're out there, so we're always looking for them.
Yeah.
It's,
When I was hearing dissection, I was thinking of a surgery. Like you're dissecting something.
Oh yeah, no, it's like it's a condition that occurs.
Remember we talked about Jack from Three's Company, tall white guy,
I think so.
long aorta.
Yes, we did.
Dissect.
I do remember that.
Yeah, like the pipe is coming apart.
Wow.
Or there's a football in the pipe and it's about to rupture. Yeah. Okay. We were talking about this before the show, actually. Do you feel like when you're making, so two things. Number one, you never did any time in the military, right?
No.
Okay. So like if you are trained in something again and again and again and again, usually, so you learn I'm trying to make it like a simple example. You learn ACLS, ATLS, right? Very simple, right? And then now you're learning emergency medicine for all those years that you trained, right? So there's all this additional knowledge on top of ACLS, ATLS, PALS, whatever else you guys do that you take every year. But in a time where there's a lot of stress, you will always default to your lowest or your most repetitive training. Do you know what I'm getting? You know what I'm getting at, guys?
Yeah. So I think what you're trying to say is like emergency medicine's, you can think of it broken down into like what's killing this person.
Yeah.
And then once you've fixed that or ruled those things out,
Yeah.
we have to know what's going to kill this person in the next, 24 to 48 hours. And so that you have to think of like your ruptured ectopic pregnancies or your abdominal aortic aneurysms or, we have to be, that's what we're looking for in the emergency room.
So do you stay calm now, like after 13 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot that you haven't seen.
I don't know that there's anything that
Okay, good. Good.
really gets me nervous enough to get excited.
Okay.
That's usually when you see somebody in the emergency room that's excited, they're just nervous.
Okay.
Being a non-doctor here,
Yeah.
I took away the ABCs.
Yeah, that's
that
what I'm
was something
saying.
that really, simple.
Airway, breathing, circulation. There's like disability, exposure.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And that was easy to take away for a layman.
But the thing is that's what makes it so great. Like even like trauma. I feel like with ACLS, you're doing a lot of extra like arrhythmias, call the cardiac, blah, blah, blah. The one thing I do love about trauma, at least ATLS, at least with ATLS, you can do so much just based on clinical, right? Like if you don't hear the breath sounds, you're sticking a needle in there. You don't got to wait for the chest film and blah, blah, blah. You just do it. And that's what I really like about about trauma. But again, I don't deal with trauma like you do. Like I get to deal with trauma once a month.
I don't know that I can claim to be dealing
Not a
with
trauma surgeon, but you deal with trauma.
Occasionally, to a lesser extent. Most of the trauma is diverted to trauma,
trauma
a trauma center.
You know what I like? I could never imagine being an ER doctor, but I think the thing that probably would be difficult for me is you have like somebody who's just like coming in for something that's nonsense, right? There's nonsense. You're totally fine. You got to go, right? You're dealing with that. You're putting your brain into it. And then all of a sudden, while you're dealing with that, getting upset with that, now somebody comes in and they're really freaking sick, right? Mm-hmm. How do you deal with that emotional toll?
It's probably unhealthy compartmentalization.
Okay.
It's not anything they really teach you in residency. It's just kind of, I think you just inherit it over time or conditioned into it. But, I can remember I had a young, 14-year-old that overdosed, ended up dying.
Oh, no.
I'm explaining to their family, I'm sorry, your daughter's dead.
Mm-hmm.
And ask them if there's anything I can do to aid them. And then I have to continue on because there's still people waiting. I have the nurse go in and console them, offer them anything they need, and then move into the next room where they then start screaming at you because they've been waiting an hour and a half for whatever.
That's what I'm talking about.
Is going on. And, in some sense, you kind of have to be the bigger person and just understand that they didn't just go through what you went through, and they don't have any understanding, or they don't have any kind of perspective on the situation that you're in. But their perspective, you have to try to understand, and so you have to let it all go and say, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm terribly sorry you've been waiting. I'm here now. What can I do for you?
Right.
And just kind of move on. And you can't be it's not an instance you can ever win. There's nothing you can say to ever be even when you try to, you can try all those scenarios. You can try to explain to people, look, I just told this other family that, and there's HIPAA, you can't break HIPAA, but you can say I was with somebody who just died. You can't, and that doesn't go over well. they really don't care. You get the patients that don't care, or you get the ones that are just so apologetic that they're like, oh, I don't need to be here, and then they leave. And like so there's not really any. The best way is to just try to look at it from whoever's perspective is standing in front of you, and just kind of take on that. There's no way you can win that one.
And you were mentioning the unhealthy compartmentalization of it. Like, how do you cope with that? Because I have heard that ER docs do develop some form of PTSD. Like, how do you go about avoiding that?
I don't know that I've gotten to the point where I've developed PTSD. I know after I get home from a shift, I kind of just need like an hour or two where I can't talk to anybody, or I don't need to hear anything from anyone, because all day you're just walking room to room, hearing about like what what's ailing them or what's bad in their life, basically, you know? And so you just kind of got to let it all go, and then you can kind of move on, and just, I think I just forget about it, to be honest. Another way, unfortunately, is I kind of just assign numbers to patients instead of their names. They're like what room number they're in and what their medical problem is. And it makes it easier than making them a person, I guess. So that might also be it, which...
You have to do some of that, though. Like I understand
in some sense.
You have to humanize everybody. I understand that. But at the same time, your cognitive load, right? Like, this is the person who is visiting from another state and is an accountant and, is a real delightful person.
Right.
And then another person who has a different scenario. Or just to free up your own brain, you're just like 10's the one with CHF and 12's the one who's having a stroke. And that's not what I'm saying is
you have to keep people human.
Yeah.
And they're always like, I always try to engage in conversation. I tend to talk to people. In fact, it's kind of become an unhealthy problem, is like shoes. I've found
another addiction.
No, like if I wear Jordan shoes, like there's a lot of people that are really into that, like that kind of like culture. Like old people recognize Jordan shoes and young kids, and the conversation just completely changes, and there's a commonality or a neutral ground that you can kind of relate. I'm not just some white kid with a degree that's standing in front of you. Like now I have like cool shoes, and that's what they want to talk about. And so you can kind of like engage in conversation from there. That's been really like kind of a lifesaver. And there's not a watch that I wear that opens up conversation like the shoes that, like, I don't know why. I haven't figured out why it is, but like if the shoes that I wear opens up conversation for me, for patients, like where I would have no other
way to identify
like find some kind of common ground with,
That's cool.
Across all demographic. Like there's not like a race that
doesn't know Jordans.
Yeah, right. It's everybody. And so I don't know, that's really worked for me lately. Kind of bring a smile to me at work, at least.
It's true. Like I wear Jordans, and my son wears Jordans, and
kids,
I
even
wore Jordans
and
when
adults.
I was his age.
Yeah, exactly. So like everybody's like, dude, those are really cool shoes. Like, and then you're all of a sudden talking about other than their abdominal pain or like broken leg or something,
Yeah, it opens up the line of communication for sure.
So, Dr. Foord, you've educated us a lot on ER medicine, and we're very grateful for that. And it sounds like you're headed possibly to a next chapter in the business world. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of had my own experience with health in the last 3 or 4 years, and there's been a lot of advances in medicines and things coming out, and it's kind of driven me to this area of like health and wellness that has become really intriguing for me. And so I was overweight or obese pretty much my entire life, from like 6th grade until I was 40, and had done everything to try to not make that the case. And I was running marathons and I was eating healthy, and the weight would kind of come off to some degree and then always come back. And had a really bad experience with my primary care doctor and kind of did it all wrong, but was able to get my weight down. And then I wanted to keep it down. So I found really good success with some of these new GLP-1s, and then kind of fell down this rabbit hole about like how it helps you with longevity or maybe maintaining your health a little bit longer, the other effects that it has other than weight loss, and thought maybe I can provide like a more positive experience and get some of the things that I got out of losing the weight, like my self-confidence and just how much better I feel when I'm not 225 pounds.
Wow, this is amazing.
I actually went as far. I got my board certification in obesity medicine, and I've been getting a lot of different kind of experience in medicine, running kind of like a weight loss clinic, and that's kind of transitioned into a lot of people kind of asking about maybe hormone replacement or like some peptides and things, and so yeah, it's been a huge transition from treating people with things that they have never wanted to experience ever in the emergency room to people who are just looking to be healthy and have that drive to be healthy. It's just a different experience that I really like. So I'm kind of looking to explore that a little bit more.
Are you wanting to like open up a clinic for people to come and see you, or are you wanting to go more like the supplement route?
Yeah, no. So I actually have been running online or a telehealth weight loss clinic for the last year. I have a little over 100 patients there, and I'm looking at opening a concierge medicine practice where I can focus on like preventative health and longevity and things like that, and work with people who are interested.
How much
in being
weight did you
healthy.
lose, Dylan?
I lost 55 pounds.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. So
That puts you at 180.
I brought down to 170, and then now I've been kind of trying to put on a little more muscle mass, and so now I'm kind of at 180, about kind of fluctuate a little bit less than that sometimes, but
Right on.
yeah.
Yeah, and I know what you're getting at there with you want to be comfortable with yourself.
Right.
So is it the skinny that's making you comfortable, or is it you're more content with yourself?
Yeah, I think I'm just more content with myself. Like, when I look in the mirror, I see what I want to see or what I've wanted to see rather than what I've been looking at, I guess. And so that just, I feel like can be more.
Do you
myself.
think you were obese for so long because of your profession? Like, did that have a lot to do with it?
I think that it definitely contributed to it. There were times where, man, you were just, all you had was just books to read and, tasks to perform. And I'd always find time to exercise. But, it was just a lack of, I didn't have the knowledge. And oddly enough, it was really nutrition and I didn't understand calories. I would go out and I'd run, 9 or 10 miles, and I didn't think I could just eat like 1,800 calories or 2,000 calories. I thought I had to eat a lot more if I was running a lot more, but you don't. Like,
There's two pieces here that I think I really love that. So I think in residency or just being a doctor, in residency, they don't teach you how to take care of yourself. And then part of being a doctor is always like, hey, but the patient comes first, and then we talked about this, just being a little selfish and just hang with me for a second. So you did a great job with this. It's like, if I can exercise, let's just say I'm going to exercise in the morning, right? if I exercise in the morning and it's a weekend and my kids are off, there's going to be, an hour, 2 hours that I'm running that I'm not going to be with them. But he brought up this point actually, is like, because I'm a more healthy dad, I'm going to be a dad at a much higher level. Remember you said this? If you take time for yourself, even if it seems like you're taking time away from your family, your kids or whatever, you're going to actually be a better dad. You will be a dad at a higher level than you could have been if you were obese.
I think it's also the proponent of, look, I wanted my kids to learn how to play an instrument, but instead of like forcing them into piano lessons or guitar lessons, I first went out and I said, well, what I'll do is I'll buy a guitar and I'll start taking guitar lessons.
Yeah.
And then maybe that will stimulate their want to take music lessons. And so then my oldest daughter wanted to take music lessons.
Cool.
So I think demonstrating a healthy lifestyle, even if that means you're away from them, they know where you're at. They know what you're doing. And it's just putting in their mind of how important that is in life. And, I had the opportunity to hike up to the base camp of Everest with my dad, who was like 69 at the time. And he had no trouble, kept up with, it was a group of us and it was incredible. And I hope I can do the same thing with my kids.
Yeah.
But that doesn't come from, sitting on the couch or anything. Like my dad was always very active and conscious about what he ate and tried to put in the effort. And so if you don't put it in, it's not going to be there, So it's about setting an example for your kids. It's about respecting who you are. There's so much that goes into it,
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Foord, we want to thank you very much for being here today and
Yes, thanks, Dylan.
gracing us with your knowledge and learning a little bit about your practice.
Thank you, Dylan. I appreciate you coming on. We are blessed to have you. And tell us about your concierge weight loss clinic. I mean, if anything, you walk the walk, you talk the talk. So tell us about how we can contact you.
Yeah, you can reach out to www.skinnybritches.com and schedule a free consultation. I'm happy to go over everything and walk you through
I'll put a link in the bio for you guys. Cool. All right, Dylan. Well, thanks for joining us today, and hopefully we'll have you back on another episode soon.